Hello everyone, welcome to the itvideos.com, and in this video what we are going to do is we are going to take a deep dive into the MVC. We're going to get our hands dirty and feet sweat. So let's get started. So I have on my box Visual Studio 2012, and let's start this as an administrator. So I'm going to start this as an administrator, and we are going to create a brand new MVC project. So what I have here is MVC 3 and 4. So I'm just going to say test 1, for example, and let's OK that. So we have a couple of options here. We have empty, we have basic, we have internet and intranet. So for this demo, let's choose the default settings. I'll choose the empty and view engine. Let's leave this view engine as Razor. So I'm going to click on OK. What it will do is it will go ahead and create a project for me, and shortly you will see on the right hand side all the folders loaded with the MVC features. Still creating, it won't be long. So there you go. So now what we can see here is the controllers, models and views. Since this was an empty project, we don't see any file in the controllers folder, nothing in the views. In the models, in the views, we only have web.config file, which we'll get to later in the series. So controllers actually respond to inputs from the browser, then it decides what to do with that input, and then returns a response back to the user. Views actually, it stores the UI, the user interface templates like the HTML files, so on and so forth. The model actually deals with the data. It stores information about the data, how we can communicate with the database, classes, so on and so forth. So remember, when we created this project, it was an empty project. So let's do one thing. Let me create another project. I'll name that project as MVC test 2, and we'll choose the basic template, and let's see what Visual Studio does to us. So I'm going to create another instance of Visual Studio, and let's create a new project. We'll choose MVC 4. I'm going to say MVC test 2, and I'm going to click OK to that. This time I'm going to use the basic MVC, a basic template for MVC. So I'm going to click OK to that, and what it will do is that it will go and create a project with the basic bare bones of the project. So you will soon find out the difference between an empty template and the basic template. Alright, here we have the folders created. So as you can see, it has added a folder here by the name content and a script, which we did not have in the other project. So if I bring the other one back, you'll say we don't have the content, we don't have the script and a few other things, but in the basic template we have the script and we have the content. Content actually holds your CSS, your themes, and the script actually holds, of course, the JavaScript files, the jQuery references. So when we choose the basic template, Visual Studio sets this up for us. So but you may still notice we still do not have anything under the controllers, we don't have anything in the model. So let's go ahead. As a matter of fact, let's go to the empty project and we'll start from scratch. So I'm going to start with the controllers, because as you know, controllers responds to the input from the browser. So if we do anything, controllers is the first thing that's received the input from the user. So that is the first starting point. So let's go ahead and create a controller. So I'm just going to right click on the controller and add a new controller. So one thing to keep in mind when you're adding a controller is the controller name should end with the controller suffix. So, and the default one that is highlighted at the moment is the name of the controller. So we'll just go ahead and name this controller as home, because home is actually let me do one thing. Let me cancel out of this, and I'm just going to run this project as is, so that you'll find out what exactly happens when you run this project leaving things as is. I'm going to click on start without debugging. Alright, it comes back and it says 404, the resource you're looking for could not be found. So what it is looking for is it is looking for the default home controller. So if I just right click on that and say home, now there is no home controller. So anything that is named as default or index, but in MVC it is the home that the MVC looks for. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's right click on the controller and create a new controller. Now one thing to keep in mind is that we have the controller name ending with the word controller itself, and that's how the naming convention of creating a controller. So we'll name our controller as home, and we'll keep the word controller as is, and we'll be using the empty MVC template. So I'm going to go ahead and click on add. Now as you can see, it is inheriting from the controller class, and it has created an action method for us. It's the index action method, and it returns a view. So what happens is when the user hits this page, the home controller, it then uses or invokes the default method. Let's call this a method, for example. So default method index, and then if there is any view associated with it, it returns that view. So now with the home controller added, now if I go ahead and run this, it will give me a 404 or page not found, because it has found the home controller, right? But there is no view per se. There is no view by the name index.aspx, index.ascx, as you can see here. So we have gone from this to this now, because what it is doing, as you can see here, is it is hitting the index method or the action result method, but there is no view associated with it. So we'll create a view in a moment, but for now I just want this index to return something. So let's say I want this page to print hello world to me. So now I'm just going to change this to say hello world, and if I save this, now it says still being constructed because the return type is action result. What I want to do is I want to return a string, so I'm just going to change that and say string, and that's it. So if I were to now run this, it should return the string hello world from MVC. Save that, I come back, hit refresh, just save. I'll just type MVC, save that, start the debugging because it compiles. Alright, it says hello world from MVC. So let's have, so this was just the basic of the MVC. We just saw how we can create a project, how to add a controller, and how to have MVC return a string. In the next video, we are going to create a view and actually make the controller talk to the view. So thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned.